Hello, everyone, and welcome to your video, which is going to talk to you about probability and what that means. And when we talk about how probable something is, what we are often asking is what are the chances of something happening? And you and I ask ourselves this question all the time. For instance, you might be asking yourself, well, what are the chances that I'll actually get caught if I do this bad thing? Or you might think to yourself, what are the chances that I actually become a huge social media influencer? Or you might be thinking, what are the chances that the world actually ends tomorrow? Those are all very good questions. They are beyond the scope of this math class. Mathematicians like to talk about very discrete things, stuff that you can actually count. So they often, when talking about probability, they often refer to coins, dice, and marbles. And so that's where we're going to focus right now. So with a coin, you can flip a coin, and there are two options that you get for coins. You can either land on heads or you can land on tails. None of this, like it balances on its edge, it doesn't actually hit anything. Yeah, no, we're not talking about that kind of probability. We're keeping it simple today. With a dice, or a die, it's dice is plural, one die, two dice. Anyway, with a die, you have six options. You could roll a one, a two, a three, a four, a five, a six, unless you're playing with one of my kids, in which case you roll a whole bunch of nothings because the die are flying off the table and then we have to do a do-over. But in the normal course of events, you have a choice of one to six. And then with marbles, you can have marbles, a bag of marbles have almost anything in it. In this case, I have two red marbles, three blue marbles, a green marble, and four yellow marbles. All right, so when we are talking about probability, we are always calculating it the same way. That is, we are calculating the chances of what we want over the total possible outcomes. And we're going to learn a little bit of mathy symbolism here. So let's talk about coins, for instance. What is the probability that you roll a heads? Look at that. The probability, capital P, H for heads. What are the probability that you roll a heads? Well, heads is one option out of a possible two options because we could get heads or tails. So you have a 1/2 chance of getting heads, right? And we could convert this into a decimal point, which is 0.5, and we could also convert it into a percentage. So you might say that you have a 50% chance of rolling or flipping heads, right? 50% chance or 1/2 chance. Okay, how about if we were looking at a die? So here, I'm going to do the symbolism and you see if you can tell me what it means. What does this mean? This means what is the probability of rolling a 3? What is the probability of rolling a 3? Well, how many options do we have? There are 6 possible options. How many of them are a 3? Just one. So we have a 1/6 chance of rolling a 3. Now, 1/6 does not turn into a very nice decimal. It turns into about, so I will use my squiggly, 0.17, which is about 17%. So you have about a 17% chance of rolling a 3. You have about a 17% chance of rolling a 2. You have about a 17% chance of rolling a 1. Okay, there you go. And then over here, what if I said, what is the probability of pulling a yellow out of this bag? So if you were to reach your hand in there and rub them all around and pick one, what are the chances that it's going to be yellow? Well, how many total marbles are in the bag. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So our total number of possibilities is 10. How many of them are yellow? There are 4 yellows. So we have a 4/10 chance of pulling out a yellow marble. Now, just like always, we are going to have to reduce this. We are not allowed to leave this in this form. So I will reduce this to 2/5. And I will turn that into 40%. So we have a 40% chance of pulling a yellow marble out of this bag. All right, so that's the first thing that you need to be able to do is you need to be able to talk about how many options there are, what are the chances of what we want over the total possible outcomes, and then expressing it either as a fraction or as a decimal or as a percentage. That's one thing. But before I let you go and start talking about something completely different, I want to talk about times where we don't trust percentages. Because in my experience, don't trust probability, rather. In my experience, there are 2 times for sure where people lose their minds when it comes to probabilities. The first time that they lose their mind when it comes to probabilities is with babies. So when you have a baby, barring some weird medical event, you have 2 choices. You can have a boy or you can have a girl, right? And people will say, what are the chances? What are the chances? She's going to have a boy. She'll have a boy. Well, assuming this is a normal pregnancy with 1 baby involved, there's 2 options. Only one of them is a boy option. So she has a 50% chance of giving birth to a boy, right? Isn't that great? Doesn't that make perfect sense? Yeah, let me tell you what happens. What happens is that there's a family that has already had 3 girls. This is the abbreviation for girls, by the way. They've had 3 girls. And now she's pregnant again. And now they say, well, she'll have to have a boy. I mean, she can't have 4 girls in a row. It has to be a boy. It has to be better than 50%. No, it doesn't have to be better than 50%. It is 50%. Still, this baby has 2 options, boy or girl. Only one of them is a boy. She's got a 50% chance of getting a boy. Now, is it guaranteed that she's going to have a boy? Of course not. Who knows what's going to happen? That's why we actually have the babies, so that we can see. But this is 50% right here, even though people think that what came before influences that. That's the first way that we lose our minds when it comes to babies. Oh, before I move on, let me just say that we could ask this question. What are the chances a woman has 4 girls in a row? Okay, that's a different question. That's not asking what are the chances that this baby is going to be a boy. This is asking what are the chances that a woman who hasn't had, these next 4 kids yet, what is the likelihood that she has 4 in a row? Well, that will be 1/2, that's girl over total possible, times 1/2, times 1/2, times 1/2, which is 1/16. So a woman has a 1 in 16 chance of having 4 girls in a row. But what are the chances that this one is a girl? 50%. What are the chances that this one is a boy? 50%. Why? Because it's 2 options. Okay, now let me tell you another time that people lose their minds when it comes to probability. And that is with the weather. Yes, with the weather. It kind of cracks me up because on my weather app, it'll say 90% chance of rain. 90% chance of rain. And I will look outside the window. Here's my window. And all I will see is raindrops. So it is actively raining, but my app says I have a 90% chance of rain. I find this to be very annoying. If it is raining when you look out your window, what is the chance of rain? 100%. It is actually happening. But that's not the way it works. All right. So whenever people talk about babies or talk about the weather, your little math part of your brain should wake up and say, "Whoo, I wonder if they're going to make a mistake." And then maybe you can correct them publicly and shame them for not paying attention in algebra. No, don't do that. No one likes that.